So Zaid Jilani of the Intercept found a new paper that came out by the New York Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve of New York, that the reason millennials are not buying houses is not because of avocado toast, as we thought. There was that genius real estate mogul out of Melbourne, Australia, that said that's why millennials weren't buying homes, is because they were wasting it on avocado toast, which that makes perfect sense. Turns out college educations are so much more expensive than they used to be, and millennials are suffering from crushing student loan debt. Oh, they didn't take out loans for the avocado toast? So this paper was published last week and had 5 researchers offered an explanation. They looked at 9 student cohorts. They concluded that the increase in public tuition and resulting student debt can account for anywhere between 11 and 35% of the decline in homeownership for 28 to 30-year-olds in the years 2007 and 2015. The decrease has been sizable. They note that relative to 2001 age 22 cohort, the mean age 28 to 30 homeownership rates for the 2009 age 22 cohort is approximately 7.74 percentage points lower. The paper also finds there isn't a significant relationship between increasing tuition and the number of students seeking higher education, perhaps a sign of increasing necessity of higher education in attaining a living wage work. So, which is interesting. So still fair amount of people going to college. Students' price elasticity of demand for higher education is quite low, they conclude. As college costs increase, American students do not forego education, but instead amass more debt. I've done several articles about the student loan bubble, and this is why no one can own a home. I mean, here in California, the home prices are just completely out of control. I know home prices and rents are high all over the country. So you're supposed to then, how am I supposed to put a down payment on a house of 5 or 10 or 20% and then have when I have student loan debt? There's no way. It's impossible. It just shows you how screwed the system is. But here's what else they're talking about. From the paper. To the extent that the ongoing defunding of public higher education has not been met, according to these estimates, by significant declines in educational attainment, some policymakers might be tempted to infer that defunding public higher education is costless. They write, however, our estimates indicate that the cost of shifting the burden of funding higher education onto the student may arrive with a lag. Early homeownership in our empirical models appears responsive to the costs of higher education. When college was more affordable and kids' parents could afford it, or the student loans were a lot smaller, then they could buy a house. But now it's impossible. And we already have a housing bubble. We have a car loan bubble. We've talked about the carbon bubble on this. But here's the final thing of this report that is very interesting. This leads the researchers to a final conclusion. The evidence points to a final policy opportunity to stimulate youth homeownership over the long run, funding state higher education. So the Federal Reserve is figuring that out. If we give people free college, like Bernie was talking about during the campaign, they'll have money to stimulate the economy. They have gotten so greedy, the corporate state, that they have realized that it is a consumer economy. And if no one has any money to buy anything other than just basic needs, rent, food, clothing, gas, that's it? No one can buy a house? Because what happened too during the housing crisis of 2008 and in 2009, these hedge funds came up and bought up houses and jacked up the rents on them. That was the thing. That's what made America great, was we had this thriving middle class, right? And there was upward mobility. It wasn't like a caste system like in India or other countries where if you're born in this class, that's it. You can't get out. America, we had upward mobility. So if you were born poor or middle class and you worked hard and got a decent education, then you could, get a decent job, buy a little house. And when that house home value appreciates, then you sell that house and move into another one that's slightly bigger. Now you have equity, and now you have more money, and you can borrow against it and start a business or whatever. Like, that's gone now. Everyone's just barely getting by. You know, they look at most Uber and Lyft drivers. Most of them they're not full time. It's a second. I mean, I'm sure many of you drive for either Uber or Lyft. I only take Lyft personally, but I've asked many of them, and many of them are like, oh, I'm doing this in supplement of this thing. It's a side job, or I'm going back to school. Or one guy said, I'm a retiree and my property taxes went up and I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford it. One woman said, I'm in grad school, so this allows me the flexibility to study and go be a student while also making money. Like, everyone's just got to have 2 and 3 jobs. As we talked about before, what is it? Something like 60% of the country can't afford like a $500 emergency. And then they're dicks for wanting to have a fucking avocado toast, I love it when a rich guy makes fun of people. I worked hard and built myself on my bootstraps. No, you were born into a situation. You were given a lot of opportunities. Like Trump, his dad gave him $1 million. Give me a break. So, thanks to the Federal Reserve, for pointing this out. And I don't know if the mainstream media is going to cover this. They might be too busy talking about how Russia is making millennials buy avocado toast or something. Maybe Joy Reid's going to blame Jill Stein for making millennials buy avocado toast. Thanks for supporting the show, you guys. Patreon link is below. Like, subscribe, and when you share these videos and watch the ads play all the way through, don't hit skip. It's another great way to support the show. And thank you to everybody that was there for Super Chat Sunday.